You want to start a farm business with a partner, one you're married to or one that's just a friend. How do you end up not divorced or hating that partner at the end of it? I'm going to give you some strategies and advice on how to stay friends and not end up as enemies coming up today on Modern Grower. Welcome, everyone. I'm Diego, D-I-E-G-O, and for the past 10 years, I've lived market gardening. I've interviewed hundreds of farmers. I've visited farms. I sell to them through my store, Modern Grower, where we sell tools, seeds, and supplies to market farms. And I've learned a ton about the industry. I've seen the good and the bad. I've seen farms succeed and farms fail, and I've seen relationships succeed and relationships fail as a result of a farm business. So the goal of this little video series right here, it's going to be several parts, is to help you avoid having your relationship explode because of the business. So if you're thinking about starting a business with a partner, that could be a friend. It could be a friend with benefits, a romantic partner, a husband, a wife, whatever you want to call them. How do you stay together throughout this or increase your chances of staying together and not increase your chances of blowing up? A lot of times, if you put the work in ahead of time, it'll help later on, because it's going to open the lines of communication. And I can't guarantee this will keep your honey, but it'll at least keep you guys talking so you can try and work through problems. The first thing that you're going to look at when you want to start a business is really to identify who is involved. Now, this series and this video series, if you are single, if you have no partner whatsoever, not applicable. Just go, run with it, do your own thing. But if you have someone in your life, romantically, a friend who's helping you run this business, a parent or a sibling that's helping you run this business, if you have children, then this is meant for you. And I say this as somebody who's ran a business for the past 12 years. I'm married. I've been married the whole time. It has not been easy. There's been ups and there's been downs. I have 3 kids. They're happy. They still love me, and I'm proud of that. And I only think I'm here talking about this because I've proactively tried to keep these relationships in good status. If I never let these things autopilot, I don't think I'd be here today, because it could be very easy to default and just roll with the business and forget the family. So when you have somebody involved, the first step we're going to do is identify who's involved. There's person A, that's you, and there's person B, that's whoever else there is. And we're going to call it the thing we're starting the business, the opportunity. So what are the roles of each person, person A, you, and somebody else in the business? And we should really define that from the onset. Who's going to do what? This doesn't have to get down to the itty bitty minutia of, oh, you're the one who's going to seal the bags after we harvest the lettuce, and you're the one that's going to decide pricing. But it's a rough idea of who's going to do what, who's doing the planting, who's doing the social media, who's doing the marketing. If you have a farmer's market, who goes? If person B is your partner, and in my case, so when I started a business, I was married with 2 kids at the time. I was running the business. It was my business. My wife was a silent partner in the business that enabled me to make the business successful. And she did that by taking care of things that were non-business related. And we're going to get to that, because somebody's role in a business might be to pick up slack in other parts of the life, aka watch kids, keep the house from turning into a episode of Hoarders. There's other things that have to happen to enable the business owner to do their thing. And I'm going to break that all down, but we really want to define up front with both people. having a conversation. Here's what we're going to do. Who's going to do what? Okay, I'm going to run this whole business. I'm going to need your help doing other things and picking up the slack. And we'll get to that. If we are running a business together, all right, I'm going to focus on these areas. You're going to focus on these areas. Obviously, we'll swap from time to time and we'll help each other out. But this is really where I'm going to focus and this is where you are. You're going to want to know what each person's bringing to the business. Finances, experience, equipment, expertise, connections, whatever it is. Let's put that all out there now so we know what we're working with and so we can balance it out. Someone may be able to contribute finances into the business to get started. The other person may not have finances to contribute, so they may contribute sweat equity in the beginning. Well, how does this all equal out? Is everybody okay with that? We don't want any resentment around this feeling. So let's lay that out. What's everybody doing here? What do the contributions look like? How do these contributions equal out? Are we all okay with that? We want to talk about who has the ultimate decision-making power for the business. Person A or person B? Sure, you want to talk things through. Ideally, it's 50, everybody has an equal say. But there's, whether you're married, you have friends, it's your father, it's your son, you have all disagreements. I think it should be done this way. You think it should be done that way. Who decides? Is it the person with the most experience in that area? Is it the person who owns the majority of the business? Is it the person who's most involved in the business on the day-to-day? Do you default to a third party to help decide these things? How do you make these decisions? So the roles, what each person brings, and the decision-making power, these are things to talk about and bring them to the forefront and get these conversations going, maybe even codify them on paper or a Google Sheet so it's written down. Not that you have to have these things perfect for every scenario, but it's a rough checklist. So if you get to a situation, it's not that you're referring to the manual. Oh, let me check. Oh, paragraph 9A6. Let's look at that point. It says, I make this decision. It's you already have had this familiarity of here's how we work through conflict. Here's how we make decisions. So when you come to a tough decision, you have some basis of that. You're not bringing it up for the first time. We're opening the lines of communication from day one. If there is conflict, how do you resolve it? If somebody ends up doing something to make the other person mad, if somebody ends up taking money out of an account or whatever, do you go to court? Do you dissolve the business? How do you dissolve the business? Is there a third party? If somebody hates what somebody else did? If you start the business as friends, ideally you want to exit the business as friends. If you start the business with a family, you want to leave the business as a nice, tight family at the end of the day, should you have to leave the business. Now, you can't prevent somebody from doing something dishonest, and that's probably going to tarnish any friendship, whether it's under the context of a business or not. Same thing with a family. But you want to have some sort of conflict resolution system. We sit down and talk things through. Maybe it's as simple as saying, look, there's going to be times where we disagree. And I want to be able to talk in a free space where we know we're not trying to make each other feel bad, put anybody down, or be mean-spirited. We're just simply trying to clean the air and say, this is how that made me feel. This is what that was like. I'd appreciate it if you could do this, and you can listen and we can work to a solution instead of getting to bad words and cussing and calling people names and building resentment or just not talking about it, which is the worst thing you can do in any conflict, whether it's business related or not. We also want to look at a specific set of situations, or we also want to look at the specific situation of if you have a family. Because if it's two friends starting a business and you don't live together, like you're actually just friends, not friends with benefits or whatever you young folks call couples, if you're just friends, you aren't going to have to worry about picking up each other's slack at home. We live in different places. You got to still deal with your laundry. I have to still deal with my laundry. I'm still figuring out my own food situation and you're figuring out yours. But if I start a business with my wife and we have two kids, I did this in reality, then part of the hours I used to spend with her, part of her free time hours that she used to get alone, part of the time I used to spend with her and the kids is now split off to the business. By default, it has to. You only have 24 hours in a day, and let's assume you're sleeping the same amount and you're working a job or something that you can't cut hours from. You start this business on the side. Well, the side hours are usually the family hours. So you're going to be taking hours out of the family pool. Your family will see you less. Your family will miss your contribution during those hours, whether that's helping with cooking, cleaning, de-stressing, babysitting, whatever it is. You're going over here onto the business because when you work on the business, it's hard to be dad and business owner or mom and business owner. When you're on the business, you're focusing on the business, meaning you cannot focus on the kids at the same time. Sure, there are certain tasks where you can kind of watch somebody, or if they're just a baby sleeping, I can get work done. But once they're mobile, tearing things up and have a mind of their own, you're not getting any work done when they're around. You can say you are, but it's low value work. You can't focus real good. So in the beginning, you really want to say, all right, I'm going to spend this many hours every day working on the business. Are you okay with that? So that time you used to get a little bit free at night, you don't get it free anymore, mom. You have to still deal with the kids or dad or whoever is dealing in this situation. And that can be hard for the other person. Now be aware the other person may say, look, I love you. I support you with all my heart. If they're a good partner, they're going to say that regardless of how they feel and regardless of how this may complicate their own life. So really try and put yourself into their shoes. You may be pushing a lot more burden onto them than they will admit. They might not be willing to tell you like, damn, what is he doing? I'm already up all night and now I got to take on 2 extra hours when I'm already fried so he can go work on this thing that may or may not work. That could be what's going through somebody's mind. Be conscious of that because resentment can be built when somebody's stressing out, feeling like they're doing everything. And I know as a parent, hey, it's fulfilling and it's amazing, but it's not always like the thing you choose to do. There's a different sense of fulfillment from being a good dad and making a video that I think will help people. This is a different sense of fulfillment. It's me expressing myself in a way that makes me feel good. Being a dad is a different way. So they're not exact equals. So yes, I'm getting fulfilled as being a dad, but I still feel like I'm chained a little bit, if you will. It's hard to explain if you're not a parent. Like parenting you have to do, and you really apply yourself if you want to be a good parent, and you're not just doing your own thing. So it can be somebody who's parenting for 16, 18 hours a day. I know you're still a parent when you're sleeping, but somebody who's actively parenting for a lot of their day might feel like they have no free time because in reality, they don't. They're at the whim of the little ones who are sucking up all their time. So if you throw more on their plate, they can that can break the camel's back. This is probably the big takeaway I want you to pull from this video is how is your action here making the other person feel, especially in the beginning when it's not generating a lot of money. Most startup businesses don't make money in the beginning. In fact, they're siphoning money out of the family. So not only are you giving this person more hours and you're doing that thing that you want to do, you're taking money away. When it's rolling, and if it gets rolling and it brings money in, at least then there's money which greases the wheels. Not that money fixes all problems, but it's like, hey, this sacrifice was worth it. We can live a little bit better now. We can stress a little bit less about money now because money's coming in. But if no money's coming in, it's like, I'm stressed out. There's nothing coming in. WTF, like what's going on? And this is a very real conversation. I think this is where a lot of businesses implode, is people don't have these conversations about the shift in household workload and responsibility when one person out of the family unit starts a business, or let's say both people do. I don't have that exact experience, but if a husband and wife both started a farm together and they had a child, you still got to take care of the child, assuming you don't have parents or somebody else around. You still have to clean the house. You still have to, get groceries and do all the things you need to do to, again, not end up in Child Protective Services and on an episode of Hoarders. That'd be the double, right? You're on an episode of Cops and Hoarders. So you get a double star for all the bad reasons, the wrong reasons. The other thing I think you should really talk about between everybody in the business are, what are the things about the business that make you excited? What are the things about the business that make you nervous or scared or anxious? We all have a different risk tolerance. We all have different things that make us feel good. Some people feel life living on that edge of chaos. They just need to push so hard, almost to the edge of total collapse, to where they really feel alive. And other people are way back from that line, much more risk adverse and much more conservative, slower moving. You want to get this out in the open. I'm scared about taking on debt. I'm scared about starting this business. I'm scared about taking $5,000 out of our savings to do this. What if it doesn't work? I'm scared about you going off and doing this. I'm nervous. I'm frustrated about all the additional time I have to watch the kids. I'm frustrated about not being able to pursue my dreams while you pursue yours. Let's get this out there and have this conversation in advance. Let's really think about the money, because I think this is one of the areas that, it's just scientifically proven that low finances cause stress. So tight finances cause stress. Let's get that conversation going. Here's how much money this is probably going to take. Here's when we could expect to break even. Here's when we could expect to start paying ourselves back. You don't want surprises. I don't think any couple is going to want to wake up one day and find a significant chunk of their savings missing. That's a spark moment. And if there's already some tension in the relationship, that is gasoline, or that's the spark onto the gas, right? And you have a bomb going off. You don't want to wake up one day and say, we got to get on, what is it now, SNAP or food stamps, or you're going to have to take a part-time job because this isn't working. You want to try and stay ahead of these situations. When you plan this out, it's impossible to know in advance how everybody's going to feel and react and how the whole situation will play out. It could go beautifully and you'll never have any problems. But you do want to run through some basic scenarios, just like if you're a pilot. I'm not a pilot, but I assume this is what a pilot does. If the right engine goes out in the middle of a flight, here's how we react. If both engines go out, here's how we react. If, I don't know, we run out of fuel, here's how we react. You want to just pre-mortem this. Talk about it in advance as people, as openly and honestly as possible. No bullshitting, no just sugarcoating or making somebody feel good. Really being truthful about excitement, fears, worries, anxiety, goals, timelines, the finances. So everybody's on the same page. We don't know how this is going to work, but we all understand that we don't know. And we know that we're all trying to do this. And we know, hey, if it doesn't work, we'll have some idea in December. And then you want to keep those lines of communication open on a regular basis, daily for some people. Some people it's weekly, maybe it's monthly. It doesn't need to be when shit hits the fan and when things go wrong. It doesn't need to be when there's huge problems. That's the time you don't want to be talking about stuff. Well, you do want to be talking about it, but it's probably not the first time you want to be talking about things. It's, why didn't you tell me about any of this earlier? Right? The worst time to find out a problem is when it got to level 10. You should have told me when it was going from level 1 to 2 to 3 and escalating with a clear trend of escalating. This, I think, is probably some of the best advice I can give you as somebody who's been married for over 20 years, who's somebody that's ran a business while staying married, who's somebody that's ran a business while being a dad with 3 kids, who's somebody who's tried to maintain a close relationship with his wife and kids while running a business, and somebody who's seen businesses really deteriorate, relationships end, not families, but husband and wives get divorced because of financial stress. Try and build resiliency from day one. Try and be on the same page from day one. Truly realize that you're doing it together. Even though person A, it might be their business, and person B isn't involved in the business, they're more involved than you think. They are enabling you to do what you want to do. My wife's never helped me with my business. I never asked her to. But I've only here talking to you today because I had her amazing, undying support from day one to enable me to get here. Without her support, I wouldn't have had the time, the freedom, the opportunity, the lack of stress, the confidence to get to where I am. There's been a ton of hiccups. I've done things that haven't worked. And she's been there with me when they haven't worked. And we talk about them and we try and stay on the same page, and I try and avoid dropping surprises onto her. It's not always easy to have these conversations, but if you love someone, then it's the hard conversations that you need to be having. So if you're going to start a business this year or sometime in the future, have these types of conversations with your partner, your business partner, or your life partner in advance so you can try and get on the same page and then continue them as the business evolves. There'll be more videos in this series coming up. I know it's not the most exciting thing or the most sexy thing, but I think it matters more than anything, because at the end of the day, if the business works, but the family doesn't succeed, what's the point? Thanks for watching. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.